Welcome to Rev Up Your Business with Hilda Gann, the podcast for small to medium-sized business owners, entrepreneurs, and HR professionals. Each week, we share tips, strategies, and trends on how you can build success in your business. I share my expertise as a people-centric leader in work culture and human resources. My guests share their expertise in human resources, marketing, sales, finance, IT, leadership, and the multiple facets that you need to take care of your business. If you love to learn and want to find out how you can rev up your business, join us. Welcome to another episode of Rev Up Your Business. Today, we're talking about simplifying leadership. You heard me. Simplifying leadership. And my guest today is Kunal Chopra. Kunal has 25 years of finance services and transformational leadership. He puts the team, its collective success and the development first. And this has led to employee satisfaction scores of 100% in multiple organizations and creates track records of delivery recognized by CEOs, often 2 years ahead of schedule. So I am delighted to have Kunal here to talk about how he makes it so simple. Kunal, welcome and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Hilda. It's a pleasure. Pleasure to be here.
You and I have had some conversations in the past, and our leadership styles align very nicely. And I'm just impressed by that kind of statistics that you have and your style and ability of leading people. Share what makes that success happen.
Great question. And yeah, you and I definitely have aligned on leadership. I think that's actually what brings us together as people. We share a passion for leading people in a very transparent, very honest, very team-focused way. What drives that for me? So leadership, I'm going to, I think, share a few perspectives on this. One, I think we overcomplicate leadership. And I think we turn it into something which is political versus something which is truly about leading, building, giving to others, helping them develop, and therefore then, having them contribute to the collective success of a team or an organization. Two, I learned this essentially through trial by fire. And I learned it through life experience, which was often drastic at certain times. I'm pretty open about kind of some of my health issues, including a stroke at 23, having great people essentially put their life on hold for me, helping me get back up on my feet when I was told things like I would never walk again, and learn the value of humanity. And then, finding my way into management 3 or 4 years after that and having a great mentor. Somebody who saw a bright young person who had some life experience behind him, who still believed, unfortunately, that leadership was about the suit that he wore or the title that he had. And as I walked into management, I had a great mentor, first gentleman who gave me my first management job, named Rob LaFlamme, and I need to give Rob full credit where credit is due, who would spend countless hours with me making me realize the following. It has nothing to do with my title. It has everything to do with how I can build relationships individually and with a group of people, collectively set a vision that all of us understand, first of all, and buy into and support each other towards delivering, and how I can then get them to do that by giving to them, listening to them, developing them. And, as I went through a journey of working for this gentleman for a year, I took a team that, one, again, no management experience, walked into a situation where, at 26, team looked at me, and many of them had kids my age and were probably my parents' age, right? And, that age disconnect became an issue for them, not so much for me. But we went through a journey of development together where they developed as professionals, I developed as a leader, simply by shedding the belief that the title is what gave me authority, and learning that lesson the hard way with great leadership above me. Two, by listening to them about what concerns them, about their own careers, their own path forward, their own interests, as well as then day to day on the job, and then being able to build a relationship with them where they could see that authentically, whether on the individual level in terms of their own past, their own career, their own development, I was trying to help. But then also on the day to day, I was moving everybody in the same direction, not putting myself above the team, investing in them where I could and had the resources to do it, and the organization that I was working for allowed. And then ultimately, a year later, I was promoted into a more senior role, had success in that role as well. And, when I left this organization, some of the feedback that I got was, in the 10 years that we've had employee satisfaction scores and leadership scores, we have never seen results like this. And that style kind of stood with me or stuck with me for the rest of my career or career to date. We're talking 20 plus years now after that time period. And what the takeaways were from that foundational period of leadership development, in me at least, were you're not above the team. Your title actually doesn't matter. I've had titles including Chief Transformation Officer and board sponsored mandates in the recent years. And, you don't deliver in those places as a change agent, or, you don't walk into places as a change agent hired by a CEO, hired by a senior executive to deliver a vision that not everybody is supportive of without a great team working with you.
Yeah.
And the way you get that team is you hire people who buy into the same vision. You hire people who, embody the same values, not just paying lip service to it, but actually live it, and who then walk into an organization, help each other, develop, deliver, contribute to an organization, at the end walk away. It's been a journey. Leadership is a journey. It comes with its ups and downs. My style is inherently, and I've done, you name the test or the personality profile, I've done it. Myers-Briggs, there's a whole bunch of them now. I've lost track of how many there actually are. And every one of those that I've done in the last several years reveals, I think, a common trait of I skew heavily towards the human side of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you can do that honestly, and partly this was shaped by, again, drastic life experience, as well as then great mentorship and people helping me realize what leadership is about, and just being fortunate enough to find those people early enough in my journey that they influenced me with that view, that this is what it takes to do this well.
So many things that you shared, and I want to maybe unpack some of that.
Yeah,
So
please.
it
I
sits
ramble, so
in,
please do.
because
Please
people
do.
are hearing and they're going, wow, 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 wow. So let
Yeah.
me just say, you talked about simplifying leadership, and what you share is so resonant with me, and that's, I think, why you and I, like, we are on the same, page. And I think three things then is your job is equally important as someone else's. And this kind of, I use the word rev up. For those of you, obviously, who are watching the show, rev up, and it stands for respect, equality, valued, uniqueness, and potential. And that's exactly what you said earlier on. You look at yourself as equally important, and everybody works collaboratively together for this greater good. And the fact that you have these stats that show that when you create some form of equality and you value people, tap into their potential, you create a solutions-based organization that people are doing things for the greater good in a very collaborative way. So I always love hearing people who really get it. And the second thing I heard you say, you were fortunate enough to have a great mentor at the beginning. And we've talked about that in the show, is that find a mentor that you can relate to and learn from them, and to be gifted with that opportunity so early that it continued to shape who you are. And I myself, have been evolving over the years and came up with this rev up based on the success we had of building a company. So when you and I chatted and talked about it, it just reinforces that this is the kind of organization you can create. It is possible, and it is feasible. And then I really want to get into your story. You've mentioned life-changing elements that really has been shaping who you are, and maybe that gratitude of life and the people side of you. Maybe you can share some of that, because in that those experiences that you had, they've given you that resilience, they've given you that perspective in life, and I'd love you to kind of share more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do we start? The attitude towards leadership and playing a different role in the team. There's various styles of leadership, top down, et cetera, right? And the top down very much comes with, well, I have this title and I have formal authority because of it. It has never worked for me, either as being part of a team where a leader has embodied that and kind of, run the team with those values, or through that style, or as a leader. Um, my view on this is pretty simple. We all work with people. None of those people, as far as I know, are children. Therefore, we don't need to manage them as a child, i.e., top down. Now, not that's how I manage my 7-year-old. But if you manage them through the lens of we are all peers and partners and share an equal amount of responsibility over this, share input into the ideas around this, and then therefore share the collective failure and success of this, what you will get is a far greater degree of buy-in and commitment to that success than I have ever seen, either through my own attempts at top-down leadership or through what I have seen from others. And it's not to say that it can't work for others or top-down can't work for others. For me, it doesn't. And for me, what has worked and has worked shockingly well, to the point where I've openly had CEOs ask me, how have you done this? And my answer is simply through a great team that is built the right way and embodies the right values and culture. Then you know it's working, not just in your eyes, but in others as well.
Yeah.
Right? So formal authority for me, couldn't care for it. Formal titles, I've held C-level titles, don't matter to me. Nor, to be honest with you, do they matter to the people I build it or put onto the teams that I work with. What matters is that I treat them as people, treat them as professionals, give them autonomy to use their knowledge and their experience to shape a solution, give them a space to share ideas, good or bad, and then give them the support, whether political support, whether resource support, whether development support, whether day-to-day support, to actually go and deliver using their capabilities. Right? And my job simply becomes, as a leader, a few things. One, it becomes shaping, collectively using the team to shape the solution to the problem we're trying to solve. Again, I step into organizations now independently as an executive, to either grow them or to fix a problem strategically, operationally, you name it. So one, I have to understand the context, the environment, the challenge we're up against. Two, I have to find the people with the right skill sets to bring into this team. And not just skill sets, I'll elaborate on that, with the right values.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And shared commitment to those values and to this vision. It's interesting. 10 years ago, I was an AVP at a big bank, in Toronto. I had a team of 20 people running through this organization, delivering strategy, digital change, process improvement, client service experience enhancements, et cetera, et cetera. On that team, I had very qualified directors. And when we would go hire, I was the last person in the interview process. And I would sit with very qualified candidates and say to them the following: My directors who I trust inherently and who embody the values I want this team to function by feel that you are a top tier person that I should be talking to as a potential member of this team. I would then say to them, I run a team which is inherently about collective success, transparency, at the expense of politics. We don't do that here. And trust that if you step into this and can embody those values and contribute to the success, myself and my leaders will know when you are ready for your next opportunity and growth. And we will make sure you get that opportunity. Is this something you buy into? Surprisingly, 50 to 60% of people I would share that with would never come back. These are concepts that unfortunately are foreign to most organizations. The talent doesn't even understand it. What they understand is politics and a reward system and a career growth system which rewards politics versus for transparency, authenticity, and performance in a different model.
That statistic is very surprising because
it is, but then you look at the cultures, and these could be the cultures that I functioned in, right? Big banks, big consulting organizations, they're very political.
Yes, and and people who are on a career track in certain industries know that in order to get ahead, they have to show what they can do and play the game, so to speak. So maybe you're right.
So you touch on something that's really critical. The game.
Yeah.
The best leaders that I know, the people who have shaped this in me, and it's not just Rob, there's a gentleman named Neil Oswald, there's 3 or 4 others I should really acknowledge here, and myself, all have made a conscious decision at some point in our careers not to play the game.
Yep.
To make that decision, you have to understand what the consequences of it are.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You will often be passed up for the next promotion. You will often have to out-deliver most people to make such a glaring case for yourself that it can't be refuted.
Yeah.
Right? But that is a conscious decision, and one that has to fit within your moral framework and your leadership framework. Right? But this is unfortunately not what most organizations are built for. They are built for the game.
And I think part of it is that, like, I always like to work with clients and help them create this rev up concept. And the beauty of when you do it is that you're working towards creating trusting, collaborative relationships. And when you are in an organization where trust is not inherent, and people aren't creating relationships that build on a trust, that can really impact on the growth, the collaboration, and the outcome. So I know I'm working now with a client where I'm going to be doing some training, and trust is a big issue. And I'm thinking, well, how does one create a collaborative team when you're having to worry about whether they can trust you to do that? That's a big challenge. And I guess that leads me to my question for you, is that how do you grow your team in that embryonic stage where people are learning to work as equals, to work collaboratively, to trust each other? Do you find certain nuances, tensions that happen as the team is developing into that more trusting, collaborative, transformation?
You do, and it's done very carefully and very deliberately, but it's done predominantly by embodying the behaviors that you want the team to function by.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, people observe what you are doing very carefully as a leader.
Yeah.
And if they see you playing politics, if they see you rewarding one team member versus another, they will pick up on the behaviors of what was rewarded, and they will mimic those behaviors. So within this, an element of authenticity and getting them to buy into the fact that you truly believe you are not above but are part of this. Two, it's a model. It's modeling consistency of your own behavior, and if your behavior is reward the right team behaviors, if your behavior is help everybody develop, if your behavior is not to criticize ideas, but to create a safe space for them, and you model that authentically, the team will start to mimic it. The hardest part of all of this is the authenticity
For
and
sure.
that model of consistency, right? And the teams that I've run will tell you openly, hey, I treat every member of that team as a friend. We joke around, we share frustrations, we share what's working, we share what's not. I look to them, despite having titles for solutions,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That are I'm struggling with, right? And I'm not afraid to admit that, hey, I'm in over my head here, or I need guidance and input here. And I don't care if you're, I'm 46 years old now. I don't care if you're 36 or 26. What do you got to help,
Yeah. Exactly.
right?
It,
Because everybody has something to add to this.
I I want to share something with you. During pre-COVID, I had 4 team members, and even during COVID, we were ironing out and doing things. And one of the people who moved to Montreal came back into town, so the 4 of us got together on Friday. And it was such joy and delight. We were talking about how we all gelled together. We came together. We moved forward during COVID. We did so many webinars. We did 30 webinars from March to December, all free, to help business owners with all of the idiosyncrasies and challenges and changes during COVID. And I couldn't help, and they couldn't help, but smile at how we gelled as a team. And I think it's that concept. I call it rev up. You've called it like
I haven't
in
branded it. You
yeah.
you have
You haven't branded it like I,
yeah.
but it's essentially, for the purposes of keeping it short, revved up your team. And the hugs that we gave after we left, and one of them was a co-op student. Says, Hilda, you shaped my career, and so early. I'll always be grateful. I know what I want, and I couldn't help think of the young co-op student that started like 4 or 5 years ago now, and the confident young lady who's now a market specialist, who knows what she wants, who has found the right company that has a cultural fit that is inclusive, that's caring, that's trustworthy. And it was just a joy. And I think when people understand that leadership isn't about you climbing to the top, you challenging people, you having hold of their life,
Yeah.
when you have this more equality, collaborative thing, it just becomes easier for everybody. They're not tense. They're not worrying about how to approach everybody. Can they say this? Can't they say this? Just it's just stress relieving, and it's a joy.
It is, right? I go back to what I said earlier. We make leadership more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah, yeah, and I loved how you said that. When we were thinking at the title, you said simplifying leadership. I thought, yes, I know that makes total sense. Let's go for that title.
I don't dispute the value of these things, but all these books on leadership, um, often the people that we idolize in leadership, specifically as you come out of business school and other such places, it's misguided, right? And fundamentally for me, and this has been again a life shaped by a brain aneurysm and as close to death as one can come at 23, and having doctors look at me and say, "Man, like we don't think you're ever getting out of this hospital bed." And just great people in my life putting their life on hold and showing me that level of compassion to help me get mine back together. Leadership, honestly, is just about people. And if you treat people, like humans, not like cogs in a machine or a tool for your own gain, you will get so much more out of this in terms of outcome as well as in terms of satisfaction, um, and enjoyment That's all I can say, right? It's really that simple. The hardest part is buying into that yourself and then embodying that value or those values, and moving away from, I guess, what is commonly taught as leadership, right? And so, speaking to you and the young person who you just mentored or mentioned, they got as lucky as I did, right? Because they lucked into the right leader
Yeah.
who embodied this and gave that to them and showed them that no, this is the way, right? And then when they bought into that, they started to embody it and lead that way as well. But sadly, that's the exception, not the norm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think sometimes when leaders are learning, they have models from the past, of people who are not ideal leaders, who are more autocratic, or who feel that you need to learn and earn your skills, and so they make mistakes and they don't get the training they need. The average statistic is 36 years of age for the young for a frontline manager, and the first time they actually receive training to be this kind of manager is 40. That's a 4-year gap of trial and error. That's scary.
Yeah, I'm shaking my head over this one because, again, I see it time and time again, including with a lot of my current clients in the consulting space and just as an interim executive. Organizations are really good at the following. They're good at finding leadership talent from technically strong individuals, right? So great, you're great at doing the job. I'm now going to put you into a position where you lead others doing the job. But then they make the mistake of not investing in them from how do you develop other people, how to communicate with other people, how do you set a vision, how do you delegate,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm not surprised to hear the stats.
Yeah.
It's done backwards. I would argue people, the right way to do this, at least in my opinion, just based on what you shared, we identify a short list or a high performing list of talent that we see moving into leadership in the next 2, 3, 4, whatever years the timeline might be. We should actually start investing in their quote unquote leadership skills, soft skills.
I call them
Yeah,
non-technical rather than
the
soft.
non-technical, right? Which great, and we should start doing that now,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Because
Versus
they can use that on the job in their current roles
right
and practice leaderships within the
in
confines
the
of
day
the
to day.
roles they're doing, so that they get more and more confident with being a leader
Yep,
in small ways and large ways.
absolutely. That's an excellent point as well. Like leadership is not all about big things,
Yeah, yeah.
right? It's the little details that often lead to the big results.
Right. And we never got taught that. We never got
No,
taught that
we
in
didn't.
public school. We never got taught that in high school. And we never got taught that in university. How many times have we seen where you have a project assignment and all of a sudden you pick the ones you know are going to be successful? And the
Yep,
odd person that's in your group, what do? You don't work through that process. You ostracize them, and then you say they're at fault because they didn't do their work, rather than learning how to deal with the team dynamics and get the product. So we've fostered this inability to lead from public school and so on up the line.
yeah, you're absolutely right. Is what I would say. Right, the system of how we develop these mentalities and the values by which we not only lead, but what we believe is the right model as well, entrenched from an early age.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. And so, you and I share two examples, one myself and the gentleman who taught me this, and then through your own development of one of your, you know, former team members at the organization you started and grew successfully. These are outlier situations where two young people just happen to luck into finding the right mentor and leader who embodied values that were outside of the norm.
yes.
Right. But to accept this type of leadership, you have
We
to
need to do it more
really,
and more.
you
There
do.
needs to be more and more opportunities. I'm wondering if we can just switch now, because I want to make sure we talk about, you are the founder of Getting Ready,
Getting
and
ahead.
you've created a software that I think is amazing. And I want you to talk about that software in the time that we have left.
Yeah, absolutely. So Getting Ahead is a talent platform built for talent and small to mid-sized businesses. So Getting Ahead also, for me, embodies my commitment to talent. I hit a point a certain, 10 years ago, career-wise, where I had an overwhelming number of people reaching out to me on LinkedIn, desperately looking for advice on how to get a career started, on how to integrate into the workforce, how to grow a career. Um, and given my own life experience and what I've shared health-wise, and the second chance I've been given to live a very productive life, I took the time to meet with hundreds of people just spamming me on LinkedIn, um, and realized one, most common platforms don't work for the majority, right? So they work for a very small subset of very large employers and professional talent. Two, breaking into the workforce, and then three, growing a career through platforms and through processes that exist today isn't the right way to do it. I launched Getting Ahead as a mentorship platform and as a platform kind of modeled after Glassdoor, which is a platform to rate your employer,
Yep.
um, and started to get out into the world and share it with clients of mine as a recruiting platform focused explicitly on small to mid-sized employers. And we realized there was a tremendous opportunity to bring talent at all levels, whether it's a new immigrant with offshore experience, whether it's a new grad, whether it's an experienced, professional, into the platform and give them direct access to what I argue is the vast majority of employers who don't have the brand equity and the big brand name on existing platforms and that most people aren't aware of. So think of it this way. I bridge a gap between small to mid-sized employers who most organizations or most individuals have never heard of, yet offer incredible career opportunities and very diverse talent to help improve the odds of success for both the organizations for finding talent, given that we know that, and they have shared this openly, that they are not well served with very large recruiting platforms, and with talent who often struggles with those same platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a simple premise that started with, hey, I'll happily guide you and mentor you, come into the community, and then found myself independently working with CEOs in the two, three, $400 million range and said to them, we need to access talent. Can we go to these places or use these platforms? And the answer was no. And the question was, why not? And it was, well, we don't have the brand equity. We don't have the dollars. We don't have. And when I showed them Getting Ahead, it was, yeah, we absolutely need to be on here. So the platform in its early days, it is a full recruiting platform focused explicitly on all talent, looking for small to mid-size employers, and exclusively that audience of employers, small to mid-size. And its unique value proposition is we don't let in the big guys. So you don't have to compete dollar-wise, brand-wise, or talent that we know is actively looking for meaningful career opportunities. We're in pilot with the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses. We're talking to a number of organizations about becoming, a partner with them. The platform actually has a social motive behind it as well, whereby partners who help originate employers onto the platform, we share a percentage of revenue with them so they can go reinvest in the community or in their communities or their member base for training, whether that's skill set development, whether that's diversity and inclusion training, whether that's, whatever it may be. There is a social purpose to this again. Um, the feedback from employers to date who have used the platform is, and I'm quoting them now, this is game changing for organizations like ours, and these are credible employer organizations. Um, and it's a simple premise, exclusive to talent looking for small to mid-sized employers.
And I like that because the fact that it is geared towards small to medium-sized employers. Everybody's having trouble finding talent, but oftentimes when people are looking, they go to the big corporations immediately, but have nowhere to go. And I always thought that people wanted to aspire to working in a big company, right? And when we were in the process of selling our company, the engineering company that we had, it was then that I realized not everybody wanted to work for a large company, and that's why they came to our company. They liked the size of our company, the feeling of community that you don't often get when you're in a large place. And I thought, oh, so there's a win-win situation for the platform you're creating, because business owners are having trouble finding, but then there are people who really prefer to work for a smaller organization and have nowhere technically to go, to get that kind of place, a reputable place to find the right employer.
It's interesting. When we launched this, I was speaking at business schools, some of the biggest business schools in Canada, and definitely in Toronto. I was taking members of my network into, from the consulting world and speaking to case clubs and different organizations, and consulting clubs at these schools. And I soft launched the platform at one of these schools and openly had some of their top talent turn to me and say, Kunal, honestly, thank you. Because if we don't get one of these 20 to 30 jobs on campus, um, we don't know where to look.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? And we did not realize that, you have talent or employers on the platform who are 30, 40, 50 people who have won numerous awards for best employer in Canada, who have been recognized in the Globe and Mail as fastest growing companies in Canada. We don't even know these exist.
Yeah.
And now you understand the gap,
Mm-hmm.
right?
For
Because what
sure.
we
For
see at these
sure.
schools are big companies with big budgets who can put their brand on a room or can sponsor an event on campus. And that permeates then across through even experienced talent.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Because these platforms are dominated by very large talent or very large organizations and brand names, or that we see in day-to-day life and then know that we should go look for or believe we should go look for them. Right? So there's a substantial gap in this market. So much so that when we met with the leadership at the CFIB, their immediate response was, do you understand that the lack of access to or lack of access to talent cost Canadian small to mid-sized employers $38 billion a year in lost revenue.
Wow.
Right? But yet we have talent on the outskirts of these organizations, large and, new immigrants and new grads and experienced talent who have recently been let go from some of these organizations, all looking for their next opportunity. But
But
they don't
not knowing.
understand that the vast majority of employment in this country actually comes from small to mid-sized employers, and there's some very credible ones out there.
Yep, for sure. For sure. How
Right?
do
So
people
that's
get a how do people get a hold of you? Because I think some people might want to learn more about the way you think about leadership, as well as this software platform
getting ahead. Yeah.
getting ahead.
The website is gettingahead.education, so please spell out education. It's not .edu. There's a long story about why we landed at that URL, that I'd happily share with anybody who's curious. You can find me on LinkedIn under Kunal Chopra, MBA PMP. You can get a hold of me at kunal@gettingahead.education. I'm out there. I'm pretty easy to find. If you're on LinkedIn, you'll find a picture of me looking like a game show host, in a suit with a tie. I tried. It was a viable career path at one point,
A game
but
show host? Cool.
I was trying to replace Bob Barker at one point. But I'm
Are you?
kidding.
Are you? I was
I'm
going to
kidding. It
say.
would have been a great career. No, but in all honesty, I'm out there, folks. I'm fully accessible. I'm honestly passionate about developing others, about building teams that are culturally so transparent and so supportive that the results confuse people. And I have again been questioned by the CEOs of some of the biggest organizations in this country how I did this. And the honest answer was I got out of my own way as a leader, committed to a model that wasn't about me, but sincerely and authentically about others. And in return, um, those teams performed in ways that honestly shocked and confused even the senior-most people in these organizations. And then, on the side of that, I grew or started a talent platform, given my commitment to talent, given my desire to give back to others and help them find kind of a similar path to what I found.
It's been a pleasure for me to get to know you, Kunal. Your true caring of people and what you've done with your life and your style of leadership and the platform you created are just a joy to see, for me to see. And I am so glad that you've been a guest on my episode today. And thank you again for being here.
No, my sincere pleasure again, Hilda. It's few and far where you meet people and you're like, they get it. I need to know this person. I saw that absolutely in you as we met at the Markham Board of Trade. I appreciate the opportunity, my friend, and commend you for the path that you've been on. The company you built and the values that it was built by with your family, but then also your commitment to talent and working with organizations to bring these philosophies to reality. So I
Thank you
thank
for
you.
that compliment. For those of you who are my viewers and listeners, if you loved this episode, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. There's such a wealth of knowledge from my guests over the years, and we're finishing up season 5 shortly. So stay tuned for season 6 and just subscribe. You will find so much information at a very conversational, frank level. Thank you again, and have a great day. Rev up your business. Thank you for tuning in to Rev Up Your Business with Hilda Gann. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and Spotify to stay up to date with all of our latest episodes. For more HR tips, strategies, and to learn how you can create a people-centric workplace, visit our website at peoplebrightconsulting.com.